I'm Erik Voss, and Game of Thrones has given us a new look at a scene from Season 8, the final season coming this April. And folks, this teaser took up 5 seconds of HBO's 2019 promo. That is 2 full seconds longer than the very first 3-second clip that we got a few months ago. And at 24 frames per second, that's 120 separate photographs to scrutinize for discreet wardrobe choices and sneaky side eyes. Let's break it all down, and spoiler warning in case I get anything too right and ruin your life. Okay, after a shot from Season 7, Episode 4, there's this overhead shot of a snow-covered Winterfell. You can see some encampments outside the city walls. Now, I'm not sure if this is an old shot or if this is a new shot from Season 8. Like, I guess these could be Dothraki camps. I don't see any of Dany's dragons though. Whatever it is, we move on to this greeting between Sansa Stark and Daenerys Targaryen. Now, this looks like it's taking place shortly after the shot that we saw in the first teaser, with Sansa greeting Jon with some icy stare at someone over his shoulder. Now we can presume that someone is indeed Daenerys. But in this teaser, her tone has certainly softened.
Winterfell is yours, your grace.
So this scene will take place early in episode 1 of the final season. Maybe the opening scene, though I could also see the season opening with a pre-credits teaser, the way last season did with Arya at the Twins. We know this from an Entertainment Weekly set visit, which described the scene as full of callbacks to the show's pilot episode. And notice how Sansa's greeting Dany the same way her father, Ned Stark, greeted King Robert Baratheon.
9 years. Why haven't I seen you? Where the hell have you been?
Guarding the north for you, your grace. Winterfell is yours.
So, by greeting Dany as your grace, Sansa is recognizing her as monarch, not Jon, who was king of the north last time they were together. Sansa is accepting, for this moment at least, that Jon bent the knee to Dany, pledging his fealty to this Targaryen invader. This is a big deal, and it's a surprising move by Sansa, because let's not forget the last time she and Jon were together at Winterfell, she urged him not to visit Dany.
Have you forgotten what happened to our grandfather? The Mad King invited him to King's Landing and roasted him alive.
I know that.
She is here to reclaim the Iron Throne and the 7 Kingdoms. The North is one of those 7 kingdoms. This isn't an invitation, it's a trap.
Sansa doesn't trust Targaryens because Dany's crazy father, the Mad King, murdered their grandfather, Rickard Stark, a move that led the North to join Robert's rebellion to destroy the Targaryen dynasty. And the North has always had a cold relationship with the Targaryens ever since their ancestor, Torrhen Stark, aka the King Who Knelt, surrendered independence to Aegon the Conqueror. A move that cost Torrhen's reputation to the North, even if it saved them from inevitable destruction from Aegon's dragon, Balerion. So that distrusting Sansa is probably the same Sansa that we saw in that frosty glare. But between then and now, I'm assuming that Jon will have told her something to reassure her. This dragon woman saved me life up north of the wall. Also, she's me up to you and I f***ed her. Whatever it was, Sansa's cool-headedness might be a tactic that she learned from Peter Baelish of all people. A man she just sentenced to death in the previous episode.
Thank you for all your many lessons, Lord Baelish. I will never forget them.
Earlier in Season 7, Littlefinger imparted upon Sansa one very crucial lesson.
Fight every battle, everywhere, always, in your mind. Everyone is your enemy. Everyone is your friend.
And that is exactly what Sansa's doing with this frenemy, fighting the battle in her mind, realizing there's no sense in openly dissing a conqueror with 2 dragons to her face. Perhaps she's mentally aiming your grace at the man standing beside Dany. Now, as always, the subtle expressions of other observers are also revealing. Behind Sansa, Brienne of Tarth can be seen, and her concern could suggest she's anticipating conflict. Like, I really don't want to draw my sword on a couple dragons. And Jon looks similarly uneasy, but somewhat relieved to see Sansa play nice. Like, half-sisters and incestuous girlfriends can be best friends, right? Meanwhile, it's interesting to see which escort Dany chooses upon her entrance to Winterfell. Like, notice how the Hand of the Queen, Tyrion Lannister, is nowhere in sight. That's some wise diplomacy, considering the North's hatred and distrust of the Lannister family. Instead, joining her is Jorah Mormont, son of the loyal Northern House Mormont, currently led by young Lyanna Mormont. Years ago, remember, Jorah was sentenced to death by Sansa's father, Ned, for slave trading, which is illegal in Westeros, stripping Jorah of his titles and forcing him into exile. But perhaps the hope is that, given House Mormont's recent support of House Stark and Jorah's service to Jon and his mission north of the Wall, the conflicts of their fathers are a thing of the past. Now, notice Dany is wearing the same white fur coat that we saw in episode 6 of last season. Game of Thrones costume designer Michelle Clapton said that Dany's wardrobe in season 7 was intended to reflect the look of her brother, Viserys, whom she killed. But she wanted to reconnect with her Targaryen family roots as she returned to their ancestral home of Dragonstone, and she essentially fulfilled her brother's dream of invading Westeros. It's sweet, sort of. And Dany's switch from the color black to the color white reflected her heroic leap from black hat to white hat, into danger to aid another person for the first time in her life. In that moment, she became a warrior queen, and the chain that you see across her clothes reflects that. It's a silver chain with 3 dragon heads forming the pin. And now there are some updates to her look. First, you can now see what looks like a Targaryen crimson scarf underneath that white coat, perhaps to bundle up from the cold, or maybe to cover up some nephew nibbles. Yeah, cringe all you want, but you should feel gross about that. Now, some are also looking at Daenerys' hair. We previously discussed how her braid is a Dothraki Jahak. It's a braid that is only cut if the warrior loses in battle. Dany's Jahak has grown longer and more sophisticated throughout the seasons. You can notice now how Dany's hair has been partially released to drape over her shoulders, but while we could read this as another diplomatic tactic by Dany, like a more northern hairstyle to endear herself to the northerners, or what some are describing as a matronly look, folks, let's remember Dany's hair looked this way at the start of season 7, so chill. And for anyone who says they can see a hint of a baby bump, guys, it's pretty early. Like that incestuous boat sex would have just happened a few weeks earlier as Jon and Dany were en route to Winterfell. Granted, the amount of time it takes to travel across Westeros constantly changes in Game of Thrones, with some characters crawling at glacial paces, others magically teleporting hundreds of miles instantaneously, all depending on what the season's narrative structure requires. So sure, maybe the flight time between White Harbor and Winterfell is a trimester and a half, but I say too soon to call. But here's my question for you. Considering Daenerys at the end of season 7 was more or less a mother losing her child, the dragon Viserion, do you think the final season will repeat this tragedy, with Dany losing her human child? Or reverse it with a dream of spring, with the birth of a healthy child that replaces the one she lost? Comment down below with your thoughts, and follow New Rockstars on Twitter at New Rockstars, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at EA Voss, and subscribe to New Rockstars for Game of Thrones updates and breakdowns, because guys, it's gonna be a very big year for Thrones. I'm psyched to be talking about it again. My life just isn't complete without people tweeting me that the name is pronounced Arya and not Aria. Look, in America, it's Arya and Hermione and Gal Gadot. Are you hearing me, friend?